that line. So, of course, the more we take out the foreign currency in terms of importing the commodities, that definitely makes the country starve, have the forex reserve starve in that incidence, which also kind of limits foreign direct investment. Good morning, Marcy.
Good morning, Andrew. Good morning, our dear viewer who's just tuned in Smart Means Business, where is here every Monday to Friday from 7 till 10 a.m. Well, it's just Friday, hoping that the words are busy actually. It was a great surprise. But then talking about
Uganda's import and export trade.
Yeah. We realize that we have trade deficits.
Yeah, quite huge.
Yeah, due to the fact that we import more than we export.
Yeah.
So that is also kind of crippling our economy.
And actually, you're right. And, if you consider the past, what we've been exporting, we've had exports shrinking, in the different sectors, looking at electricity, looking at agricultural products, and so many other services. And according to the observation, you get to realize that most of the countries that are taking our exports are consumed largely by COMESA, countries in COMESA, Burundi, Rwanda, and then when we talk about the imports, for the last 20 years, we've been largely importing from Asian countries, and of course China being one of those dominant countries. So many of those perspectives. And now that brings us to, for example, for 2023, we had our import volume was about $8.5 billion US dollars. If you are to really consider that, $8.5 billion US dollars compared to what we actually exported, which was about $5.4 billion. So you can make the math and clearly get to see what the deficit, what is the deficit like there. And of course, I'm going to request my producer to take a look as we take a look at some of the simple summaries, the graphical representations in line with what we are talking about. Now, of course, we know that our economy is predominantly agriculture. And now you see the agriculture saw an increase in export volumes with revenues from various agricultural products totaling to about 208.35 million US dollars. That is equivalent to $8.92 billion. And the specific products contributing to this increase included tea, tobacco, maize, fruits and vegetables, fish, and of course products, groundnuts, and so many more. And actually, when you take a look at that, I would expect more. There is much more potential than that. Because you get to realize we have come to discover a new crop, cash crop, which is, of course, it's not replacing coffee, leave alone even tea. There is, it's a vegetable. It's avocado, Hass avocado.
Oh, Hass avocado.
Yeah, it's quite an important cash crop, and it's grown in the various parts of the country. Just like, because through this, there has been able to, we are now exporting avocado oil. To other countries. Now, so far, it has attracted 5 investors, that is foreign investors actually coming in to exploit this avocado, and we export. The only challenge that it is posing probably is due to there is no international regulatory kind of law regarding the avocado oil, what standards should be put out there. So, but at least we are not doing so far bad. But this is one of those cash crops that is going to be earning quite some huge amounts of money for the country Uganda. And considering that we have about 2 rainy seasons, of course, despite the few changing weather, like talking about the climate change, but at least there is quite some good performance in that line. But that is where Uganda is standing really at, because our economy has predominantly stayed on exporting, that is raw materials. And as a result, this leads to what we call a value-added erosion in the country. So that means the potential to create jobs, to improve infrastructure is all really put on a hold due to what is happening just right there. So that is how Uganda is definitely performing. That is in the line of the import and export trade. Now, for considering part of the key potential markets that we've been considering, we have the vegetable and the fruits, and if you're to consider annually, on average, we produce about 5.8 million tons. That is in terms of fruits and vegetables, and these are estimated at a value of $35 $35 million US dollars. You know, as you can clearly see this portraying out. So, I mean, this the most amazing aspect here is that we produce so much as compared to some other countries, as a country Uganda. But when it comes to the export bit of it, we don't seem to be playing the game like how we ought, you know, to put it out there. But of course, there are various reasons that are coming due to that. Now, of course, if we can take a look at some of the exports which we put, and like you see clearly, the arrow pointing down clearly indicates that we had a decline in terms of the exports. Take a look at the cotton, you know, considering financial 2020 to 2023, that is, we dropped from, I mean, in 2021, 2022, we were importing 3.3 trillion, and now it's dropping to that is at 3.2 trillion. So there is a decline. Take a look at electricity. You know, exporting in the financial 2021-22, we exported the electricity worth 41.86. That is $41.86 million. Now come down to that is to 2020 to 2023. There was a decline. So you can see clearly that there is a shrinking in everything that we are even exporting out there, and yet the curve of the importation seems to be rising up, you know, so high,
which is good. Which is good.
But we are, I mean,
exportation.
Yeah, it's shrinking.
I think one of the factors I would say we've continuously said it. I think just because we do not add value in the products that we send out.
Yeah,
that's the only thing that leads to a decline, because there's a lot of competition out there. Really? So
there is a lot.
Yes. So actually, if you do not really harness that whole aspect of value addition, trust me, people are willing to go an extra mile and actually export at a cheaper price just to beat you on the market. You may have the quality, but then you may have the quality in raw materials, but it's cheaper.
Yeah, it's cheap because of there is no value added to it. That's why the other day President Ruto of Kenya was saying, let's import more of Uganda's raw milk, like that we can add value to it and make more money from it. Yeah. And that is something that I was wondering and thinking, really? I mean, our neighboring countries are using this as an advantage. Like, okay, let's get it from them. The export, the import maize from Uganda, and they take it and clean it up, package it, and export it at quite very high prices, and they're fetching quite some huge amounts of money. And if we are talking about, because I feel like before we can consider about thinking of external markets, we need to first of all maximize the East African market. You know, how are we trading amongst ourselves? Because this will give us, as we trade amongst ourselves in East Africa, it will give us an idea of what is that crop now. I mean, what does Uganda produce best? What does Kenya produce best? And now all this is determined by, first of all, trading within ourselves. And then if we can get to understand, because I feel like we still have an identity crisis when it comes to what is our export raw materials, because predominantly our economy is reliant on agriculture, definitely mining and energy, according to, if you take a look at some of the
you know, actually, yesterday someone mentioned we actually forefront agriculture as our backbone, as one of the sectors that is leading. But then is it? If you've gone to
the service sector is actually more. Has a more
much as they allocate you know, money for agriculture and they emphasize there, but is it earning us what is it earning us revenue as it should? Go to the villages, go to Western Uganda. No one is actually willing to produce for commercial purposes. Everyone is still reluctant. People are still doing subsistence farming. So it's going to be so hard. Because now everyone, you know, when it comes to land in Uganda, people own, you know, different people own land by themselves. It's there, so it's going to be hard, you know, to change someone's mindset, because they believe, oh, the market, it's so hard for the market. So it is up to, there are very few individuals that could actually do. If at all we focused on the a few individuals who can produce in huge quantities, not relying on everyone. Not
exactly.
Yes, yeah.
A few individuals, but they can produce the best.
The best.
Okay, that would be an ideal. And I think also there is also
if we could have agriculture contribute maybe 15%, and the rest comes from other sectors, would be good to go, because the 15% can actually feed us and still export
out there. Actually, lately agriculture contributes about, it still contributes a good percentage, about 42 to the GDP, at our country's GDP. Though I would feel like we, given the potential we have, we must be, I would expect it to at least reach 55%, since because you cannot tell me that you're predominantly agriculture, yet we still have some other sectors that are competing with agriculture. But of course, due to various reasons, which we shall be exploring later on into the show. Well, at this point in time, let's take a look at what's making headlines into the press. Well, as we kick start off here, I have the Daily Monitor, and of course, the headline here says Isimba Dam to shut down. That is for repairs, and of course, they are putting down the different the cost here, breaking it down when you grab yourself a copy. And now, of course, seeing here 39% shut down, the percentage of pending defects. That is according to the Chinese contractor, which require shutdown of the plant. And now, of course, there is also the aspect here of the powerhouse to rectify. The powerhouse, which forms part of the 10-story dam house and offices, requires that is a replacement of panels, guidelines, installation, painting. Now, of course, there is much more details when you talk about this. Now, the total cost of the Isimba Dam works will go to about 2.2 trillion Ugandan shillings. So that is quite a huge amount of money to get out of the state coffers, but it's necessary because we have been seeing still in our export volumes how the electricity we export decreased by less by about $1 million. So that is something that we need to really look into as a country. And of course, cases of red eyes go up in Kampala. That is not good news at all. It calls for absolute, you have to be very careful. Of course, you need to make sure you wash your hands very clean and don't touch your eyes. That's according to the guidelines from the Ministry of Health in line with that. And now, of course, taking a look at the cash ties tongues of opposition members of parliament. I mean, a lot has been going on in parliament this week. But you grab yourself a copy and you get to find out what is the insight regarding that.
Well, of course, as we look at how Museveni, Italian investors discuss on investment opportunities, away from the EU and Uganda business forum that was there last week, still having more talks with different investors on how they can actually contribute to our economy. And of course, as we continue to see red eye in more schools and prisons being affected.
Even prisons are affected by red eye.
Red eye. Yeah, and of course, a young man who decided to, take a life of a child due to a breakup instance with a girlfriend. That's if you get yourself a copy. Well, I do not know what is happening with this generation, but it's well, of course, Uganda roots for dignity for IDPS. Yes, that is a displaced, internally displaced persons. Yeah.
And now taking a look at how the government is unveiling a 19 billion shilling project that is to stop open defecation. And now, of course, the Ministry of Health has launched a $5 million project in line with that. So you can grab yourself a copy and see what is happening. Now, of course, still further details regarding the Isimba Dam shutdown and over the different defects to that. But what does that mean to the country's supply of electricity, most especially to the factories, that deal in most especially to the manufacturing sector, actually, to make it much more clear. Now, of course, the House resumes amid calls for forensic audits. Now, the Parliament was adjourned indefinitely on March 6th, but the move was described as ill-timed timed in the prevailing circumstances. So get the copy and get to find out what it has to do with this as the House resumes amid calls for that is a forensic audit. Okay.
Well, of course, as we see, 145 MDAs failing to submit budget estimates to Finance Ministry. And of course, this was despite the stringent measures that the Finance Ministry issued to accounting officers regarding submitting the budget estimates. 145 MDAs.
Okay.
Have failed to meet the deadline of submission of their draft budgets.
Okay.
Yeah, for the financial year 2024-2025.
All right. Yeah. Of course, you be finding out further details regarding that matter. Now, President Yoweri Museveni woos Italians to coffee value addition. By the way, when it comes to part of the exports that we've actually been able to, a little bit perfect is coffee. I mean, we've really tried to, have different investors in there and different Ugandans participating into that, despite the few scandals that we still have in there. Now, during the Wednesday meeting, President Museveni told the Italian delegation that what Uganda needs from Europe is simply capital, not from the government, but from the private sector. Yeah, exactly. So we shall be looking into that, actually, how countries in which have established agriculture, when it comes to output, there is a strategic partnership between that is the private sector, government, and development partners, something which we are not yet fluent at in Uganda in relation to that.
Well, of course, as we continue to see, if higher education is ready for the products of the new secondary school curriculum, and that is in line with education, and of course, looking at why MPs shouldn't be the ones that elect the president. Well, if you agree, I guess most of you do agree, probably, yeah, because you have to participate. It is your right to participate in whatever decision.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, of course, somebody here says something so interesting about things that Uganda's middle class and that people keep upgrading their phones in terms of versions. You have these versions, but what is the output? Now, how has that contributed to the GDP? And he's saying something that is right. That first, the GDP of this country is not changing. And he says the last time he checked, most apartments were empty. And he's also heard the rumors about, okay, this is quite true, by the way. We tend to focus.
For someone to upgrade a phone, does it mean that they're into the middle class? We have very few individuals in the middle class, actually.
No, okay. The whole aspect is that there are things we take so much priority, yet in actual sense, they are not adding to our livelihoods as Ugandans. If you look at where the economy we are starting at, we should be really so much focused at creating impact in everything that we do. Impact not only to our communities, but to also the communities across, because that's where we're going to earn revenue. We are not thinking, we have lots of problems, but why do we let foreign investors see these problems, yet we can't see these problems? Now, there is also a problem there, on our side in regards to that, because Uganda, Africa, it's a virgin territory for investment. If you take a look around, and only if maybe we had fair policies governing investment. Well, that is it from our press review. Now we go into the traffic and we take a look at what is happening on the streets of Kampala this Friday morning. Now, of course, the images you observe in there are coming live straight from Ginger Road. That's Ginger Road, right?
Access as well.
Yeah, which links up with Access Road, Kampala Road, that junction in there. But you can see the situation, that is the route stretching all the way from Nile Avenue, Garden City, seeing a huge fleet of border borders. Actually, when I see border borders, it gives me the feel of a heavy congestion in most cases. But that is what it is sounding at. It's a Friday morning. I normally don't expect Fridays to be so heavily congested. Now, for the people that are crossing through from Nile Avenue and you're proceeding probably to Access Road, you will you'll have to be patient a little bit. Unlike those that are coming in from Kampala Road and you probably are heading towards Ginger Road, it would make it much more, appropriate, because if you use the Garden City route, like I mentioned, you pass through the Nile Avenue and you proceed up to, you branch out up from Garden City. Yeah, you can smoothly proceed through Ginger Road and head to other given destinations. Now, of course, taking a look at Ginger Road joining Kampala Road, like usual, that junction where Port Bell Road links up with the Ginger Road is normally congested due to the various reasons. We know that there are many vehicles along Port Bell Road. There are a number of settlements there, also compared to along Ginger Road. As you proceed towards Nakawa side and continue, there are quite a huge number of settlements. So when those two combine together, they definitely form a strong bond of congestion. And that is what exactly we're seeing now. Still away from that, we see vehicles coming in all the way from Access Road, a number of them are being set to proceed towards Ginger Road. So, well, you will have to be patient for about 5 to 7 minutes, really. But that is quite fair as compared to other days, because if I'm to look, we have to look up there from the extreme far end up. We are seeing not so many vehicles lined up from Ginger Road. So Friday, like I said, Friday is normally not really much more congested in the morning hours, but as we proceed later on in the other days, it definitely gets much more congested in that regard. So that is what we are observing at the Airtel roundabout situation, and linking up straight here to the Ginger Road, continuing through Kampala Road. Well, that is the traffic atmosphere as we speak this morning. But of course, we anticipate other days as the day keeps on moving. It might increase a little bit. Like I said, Friday, very early in the morning, it's not really so much of a congestion. But as the day goes on, it gets a little bit much more busy. And the evening, it's even much more worse than that. Well, Smart Means Business takes a break, and of course, we are returning with the Caribbean, South Africa, and the international business updates. Stick around.